Hi, I'm going to read another story to you, and this one is called Harold and the Purple Crayon, and it is written by Crockett Johnson. So let's see what happens in this story. Harold and the Purple Crayon. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. But there wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. And he needed something to walk on. He made a long, straight path so he wouldn't get lost, and he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on that long, straight path, so he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. The shortcut led to right where Harold thought that a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard those apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold, and he backed away, and his hand holding the purple crayon shook. And suddenly Harold realized what was happening. You know what's happening there? Well, by the time Harold realized it, he was over his head in an ocean. He came up thinking fast, and in no time he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. The sandy beach reminded Harold of a picnic, and the thought of a picnic made him hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. Wonder what he's going to have. It was nothing but pie. There were all 9 kinds of pies that Harold liked best. When Harold finished his picnic, there was still quite a lot left, and he hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. What's he drawing now? So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up, and off he went, looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the further he could see, so he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired and felt like he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window way up at the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped. And there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling into thin air. What is he gonna do? Well, luckily he kept his wits, and he kept his purple crayon, and he made a balloon, and he grabbed onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. He had a fine view from that balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window, and he tried to think where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. That is a lot of windows. But none of those windows was his window, and he couldn't think where it might be. So he decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way that Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing that he was in his room and in bed. But then suddenly, Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom was when there was the moon. It was always, his bedroom window was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed, and he got in it, and he drew up the covers. And the purple crayon dropped onto the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. I hope you liked that story of Harold and the purple crayon. And I'm wondering if this story didn't have that title, if it wasn't Harold and the purple crayon, what if it was my name or your name? What if it was Julie and the purple crayon, or you and the purple crayon? I wonder what your drawing would be, and wonder what your story would be. If you want to, you could draw and tell your story and share it with us. I'd love to see.